welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse, where myself, Hoppocalypse and DPayne,
Tita. That's hello in Albanian.
who is true to his word,
I
discuss
looked them up today.
discuss topics. Usually they're ones that are voted on by Twitter, but this week we had to record the episode a little bit earlier than usual as I am busy this weekend. So for any audio listeners that are looking to watch us on a Saturday, we won't be live on, is it August 29th? Is that the appropriate date?
I can't picture dates, but let me look. Yes, that is it.
Yeah. So, yeah. But we will, at the end of this episode, have the Twitter poll up for you guys to have a full week to vote on our next topic. Otherwise, are there any other announcements?
There are a few, besides that one. But I am going to say, you get to roll the dice this time, because since we're not rolling dice to find out who's going first, I figure this is going to be an open dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I won the last round, so according to the rules that have been highlighted in the talking points, the loser gets the roll, and you lost, so you get to roll for next week's topic.
Okay. I did lose last week's discussion, yes.
Yes. In real time, it was 2 days ago, or 3 days ago.
But for anyone listening in the audio, it's a full week.
Yeah, woo, magic. The only other announcement I can think of right now is that we have a new country on the list of countries listened.
Welcome, welcome.
Hello, UK, land of the Queen. We don't know where you are, but you are on the list. Last time I checked. Hold on, if I refresh it, I can find out. Well, not refresh to find out where it is, but find out if there's any others in the course of when I checked it earlier today. Nope. United Kingdom, welcome to being less than 1% of the listening audience podcast. And that is it.
So wait, how many countries do we have in Europe now? Or did you already close it?
No, I always have it open.
Because I remember it was at Iceland that we had before?
Yes. Okay, so we have Germany, Iceland, Spain, Ireland, France, and United Kingdom. We also have Azerbaijan or Bajan.
I always forget how to pronounce that one.
I don't know how to pronounce it at all. So until one of the 1% listener that listens to it comes in and tells us how to pronounce it correctly, it's named Azerbaijan. But this is just me gonna assume off of the map, or not map, but oops, I hit the wrong button. Just the little flag next to it. I'm going to just take a random guess and say Middle Eastern, but I could be wrong. And then we have the rest of our listeners are in North America with Canada and the United States. Bajan.
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan.
So it's, do you know where Turkey is off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's normally placed right next to Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yes, I know where Turkey is.
All right, it's right to the right.
Okay.
Well, Armenia's in between, but
it's around that area. So I was right. By judging off a map alone. Not map.
The flag.
Flag.
But
yes, UK, welcome. Light some sprinklers or whatever you do over there. I don't have tea, so I can't be like, here you go. But we're Americans, so we throw that stuff in the ocean or something.
Oh, I drink so much tea. Speak for yourself.
I don't throw anything edible in the ocean. So that's too much of a trip and waste of money right now. So green tea is really good. I drank a whole bottle of green tea on Thursday stream. It was great. And then I finished it. I'm like,
oh
it's
no.
Gone. So, yeah. So today's topic, if you guys haven't seen any of the social media posts at twitter.com/pointlessdisco, you may have remembered a conversation, I think it was 2 weeks ago, according to podcast
time frame.
Upload time, where I'm trying to remember the actual specific episode it was. It was 2 episodes ago. It was something with comic books. Hold on, I'm gonna
Wait, no. We haven't done a comic book recently.
There was comic book stuff in the conversation, I thought.
We did. Is it Tabletop Games to Live In?
Oh, Tabletop Worlds to Live In, yes. Okay. Yeah. The comic book stuff is superpowers. But anyway. In our conversations, I don't remember the exact context, but if you guys don't know the context, go back and listen to Tabletop Worlds to Live In. And you can hear the context of when we're like, oh man, this sounds like it would be a fun conversation. We should do that for that one thing that we're thinking of. Yeah. And then we're like, we're not telling you guys till later, later was the week after.
The leading in topic was I said that it would be an awful time to have to live in the world of One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Or Ultimate Werewolf as a whole, where it keeps going until the werewolves.
For the episode, if you didn't listen, but I don't know why you don't listen to all of them.
Sorry if you feel called out.
Yes, it's all Hop's fault. Send all the hate mail to twitter.com/Hoppocalypse.
Oh boy. But yeah.
Links in the show notes. No.
But yeah, so the idea kind of came about to discuss the kind of like we started to branch off into a discussion, but we both remembered the lore between both werewolves and vampires is so extensive that you have to really like pick and choose what you're gonna talk about, and that's what this episode is. Essentially, from the title of my stream for while we're doing this live, I just made it werewolf versus vampires, but as a whole, I think we were thinking which would be the worst to deal with if they were to break into your home.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like our zombie weapons episode, but now these creatures actually like suck to fight.
Yeah, I'll admit, I was kind of leaning one way. Like I wasn't like very heavily leaning one way, but after reading into it a little bit more, I'm like very, very heavily on one side that would suck to fight or just interact with.
So before we dive into just blurting out all of our opinions, I want to ask you, so for the audience, we didn't share at all what we thought we would look into. The only thing that we agreed that we would look into is that I would look into the D&D stat blocks for a werewolf monster and a vampire monster, and DPayne would look at Pathfinder or a few other RPGs.
I just got the Pathfinder.
That's fine. So I picked 2 other sources for myself. What did you pick, DPayne?
Oh, what
like outside of the Pathfinder?
So I looked up. Okay, hold on. I gotta bring up the website. So there is. Where'd it go?
All right. Well, you bring it up so that you can get the names. So I decided to go with 2 movies that I think are not actually good movies, but I loved them when I watched them because I think I was an angsty teenager that liked. I don't know. I liked versions of the werewolves and vampires that wasn't like straight out of the book. So Underworld is the first one I read into because Underworld is ridiculous.
Yeah, that showed up.
And then the other one that I read up on was the Van Helsing movies with, who's the actor? It's the more modern Van Helsing ones.
Wolverine.
Yeah, as Van Helsing.
What is his name? It's
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I had the H, but it wasn't Heath Ledger. So, which I'm pretty sure he played a vampire at some point.
Would have been surprised me. I realized I picked these 2 movies because, for me personally, they both have werewolves and vampires in it, so it's an easy like lore thing where I can get all the information from like both of their positions of the lore. Whereas like I was like, oh, I'll look up Interview with a Vampire, but that's only about vampires. I don't believe there's any werewolves in that. At least in the movie. I didn't read all the books.
Yeah.
I should have read up on the lore for What We Do in the Dark.
That's
or What We Do in the Shadows, sorry.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, What We Do in the Shadows. Guys, if you have not seen the movie What We Do in the Shadows, you are cheating yourself out.
They don't really talk about the werewolf lore though. They just talk about how they're bros.
Yeah, they're just like they all hang out, and it's just funny because like I think in all lore, vampires and werewolves hate each other, but in
Hmm.
this one they're just mildly annoyed with each other. Just like, what are you doing over here? Yeah, you get out of here.
Hmm.
I don't,
This sh-
that's not the accent that they have, but it's great.
yeah, the show's a little different. In the show, they have a couple more instances where they get more fighty and just mad at each other. But it's also a
Mm,
different set of vampires.
yeah. So yeah, that's just a great movie. Oh, I want to watch it again.
Yeah, if you have access to Hulu, I would also recommend the show.
I don't have access to any subscription-based TV options or even TV options.
You don't you don't know a guy?
I think I know multiple people, but it's like I don't know when I would actually sit down and watch them.
That's fair.
Um, so the sources that I looked up, I found it's funny. Vampire stuff would seem to be a lot easier to find. Um, so I found I think this is like a role playing game or some sort of game that I found not like on purpose. I was just it said just vampire strengths and weaknesses. And then I found out it's part of like some video game or some sort of game. Let me go to the home page. It's called Ebon Ridge, a supernatural role play in Second Life. So, yeah. So I'm guessing this is taking stuff off of um, the show Supernatural, which I did look a little bit into, but then there's very like as I was reading, I'm like, this is something that is very show specific. That that is a weakness or strength. So I'm like, I stopped looking into it.
Oh, the sources I picked also have very specific things that are
Yeah,
absurd, but that kind of makes it, I think, funnier.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't really go too far into it. It was also very confusing. I'm not a. I used to watch a lot of not Twilight, Supernatural, but I didn't like. There's just a point in Supernatural where you realize, oh, they repeated the season 13 times.
One of
um,
us should have read up on Twilight.
oh yeah, I was thinking that too. I'm like, oh, why did I miss the opportunity to do this?
Sparkly Boy is now gonna be Batman.
I know.
I'm
It's
actually
great.
I'm actually excited. I've been meaning to watch. I think it's called The Lighthouse.
Oh yeah, that's. I want to see that too. It looks cool. Um, and then the other website that I found, which I didn't realize what it was, but it's occultist.net, which turns out it's a big old occult site that told me about the strengths and weaknesses of vampires. And I'm like, oh,
Is it one of
well,
those sites that also tells you like how to become one?
I didn't dig too far into it. I think I clicked on the front page and realized, oh, there's a demon encyclopedia.
So much
Uh,
knowledge.
yeah. And then for werewolves, I just found like an article that just said vampires versus werewolves. But for werewolves, I'm actually going to be pulling some lore stuff that I think is pretty neat from a a manga called Wolf Guy. Um, the the author and artist that did that, they created like one of my favorite like mangas that I wish became a TV show or something called Akumetsu. And I don't know, it's a really cool just story. And then so that guy, he's like, well, I want to write about werewolves, and I can go more into the lore when we get to the werewolf side of it. But yeah, he did that, and I realized me reading that series, there's a lot of like stuff that I didn't realize that I pulled or remember from that I'm like, oh yeah, that's how werewolves work. So
Okay, yeah, that's pretty neat. I almost wanted to look into Wolf Among Us, but then I remembered that whole series is more like fairy tale based, so I didn't think
yeah.
I could pull much lore because he just is the big bad wolf
Hmm.
who happens to kind of transform between level of wolfness and is not necessarily werewolf.
Yeah. If anyone wants to read the comic that's based off, I believe it's a DC comic. It's not called Wolf Among
No,
Us.
it's
It's
not.
called like Fable.
It's
Or something.
Fable, and it's Dark Horse.
Dark Horse. Well, I think Dark Horse is part of DC.
I forget, honestly. I remember there was a weird. Oh no, sorry. Strider was mentioning to me that one of the companies lost rights to something, so that something versus Predator isn't getting printed anymore. I forget. I forget who owns everything now.
Alien versus Predator?
No, it was.
RoboCop versus Predator?
It might have been.
Excuse me, audio listeners. You're going to hear a LaCroix crack because I grabbed 2.
Oh, and I was nice enough to save that for before the podcast recording.
Did you open both of them?
I only have one.
Yeah, I have 2. I finished the one, and I'm like, I know I'm going to be thirsty.
I want to say it's Batman vs. Predator.
That sounds about right, yeah. There's actually like a RoboCop versus the Terminators, where apparently that short run brings an end to both of those stories, and it's apparently really good. And they're like, people are like, can you do this in movie form and like just end the Terminator series, please?
They'll never end that series as long as they can help it. But anyway, yes, sidetrack. Back on track. So yeah, so it sounds like, yeah, we've kind of gathered various sources, and it's kind of cool that we didn't overlap in any sources to get. And because like there seem to be commonalities I've noticed, but then some people like to go, well, that's not enough. Let's crank it to an extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. There's well, do we know which one we want to start with?
I don't know which one I want to start with, because my opinion of which one's worse depends on the universe we're talking about.
Oh. Well, you start off, because I don't really have universe-specific things. I just have, like, general overviews.
Okay. So, have you seen Underworld?
I almost said yes. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I'm familiar with it. Why did I not look into Blade? I don't know.
Are there... Blade is another, yeah.
I think Blade and Underworld... Do they have overlapping?
I don't think so, because isn't Blade a comic series?
Yes. Blade is a comic series.
I don't know that if Underworld is, then I have no idea.
Know. Yeah, it's not that important.
I know Blade... I remember Blade being crossed over with something else, but yeah. I thought it was in this, like, whichever comic series owned him. Is it Marvel?
Walking Dead. Yes. I believe Marvel owns him.
Okay. But anyway.
That'd be great. The Walking Dead with Blade in it.
Who would he fight?
Whoever he wants.
His whole life is to be like, oh no, I'm half vampire, must murder other vampire. Like that's his life. There are no vampires in Walking Dead.
Yeah. There's a webcomic where there's a zombie apocalypse that happens, and there's a small town in like the middle of the state, middle of the country, America, and like right before this happened, like a tornado came in and like knocked down all their like outside like communication, and then these like band of like random people show up and they're like, hey, you guys are the last humans alive in the world. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, you're the last humans alive in the world. We are actually vampires. Hi. We want to keep you alive so we don't die, and we will protect you from like the hordes of zombies because they are coming here because you're the legitimate last humans alive. And it's just like, it's this whole story of like the humans are like, vampires aren't real, and then there's just like, whoa, they are. But then there's like people like some vampires are like, we gotta treat them nice because they're keeping us alive, we can't be butts. And then there's other ones that are like, I hate the fact that we have to work with humans. And then it's just like, it is a very interesting thing that I lost track with. I don't even remember what it's called.
Okay. It does sound like an interesting thing. Yeah. But it turns us human people full of human blood to cattle.
Yeah, but it's like, it's friendly cattle, not like daywalkers.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of vampire movies that do that. But anyway, so in the Underworld series, the origin is, from what I understand from rereading the wiki, because I don't remember it from the movies, I just remember various scenes from the movies, like them throwing elder vampires into helicopters.
Get in there.
Oh, no, not into the helicopter, into helicopter blades to win the fight.
See, Blade's there.
But so I mean, if a listener, you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. From what I understand, there were basically two immortals. One ended up becoming the first werewolf, and the other one became the first vampire. And then they each,
That, yeah.
yeah, and they each spread their disease down, and it weakens as it goes down to people. But like everything I was reading, the more like pure the werewolf is, it's just literally impossible to stop them. Like hand on hand fights with vampires, the werewolves are like easy rip. But the only way to apparently beat the werewolves is like silver. So like a lot of the vampires fashion silver bullets or silver injections and do stuff like that to reduce their regeneration and all that stuff.
Isn't like silver also a vampire weakness?
Mm,
Not in that world.
not in that world, I don't believe.
Yeah.
In this one, the vampire weaknesses tend to be
Being ripped in half.
yes. Um, yeah, like they have their regenerative abilities, but apparently they in the series they can die from like permanent damage, severe physical trauma, amputation, dismemberment. So like whereas I think the werewolves can regenerate if given the time, but the silver slows the regeneration. And then vampires like they rely on their amount of blood that they have left in them. But I know in other series, like, it doesn't matter. They'll just grow it back anyway, because vampire has to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, so their weaknesses in this are basically the usual sun sensitivity. Either, you know, extreme sunburn, or they turn to dust, or they catch fire, depending on how long they're in the sun. Um, but in this series, they don't have any of the like mythological stuff. Like, you know, Van Helsing's like crosses, holy water, garlic, stakes. They don't have those weaknesses. But apparently, in one version of Underworld, I didn't watch this movie, but it says that nightshade is apparently highly poisonous to vampires. So, where I guess the werewolves have silver, they have the nightshade.
And they throw shade at night. Oh, stop it.
But I don't know, from like, if I had to look at it from the Underworld series, if a werewolf of pure enough form ended up in my house, I don't think I could do anything about it. Whereas it sounds like if you like poke the vampire enough, they'd be like, "All right, guy, that hurts. Okay, that hurts, guy." I mean, yeah, they're both like, you know, have insane physical abilities. Where if I had to fist fight, I would lose. And I feel like at least the werewolf would probably put me out of the misery, whereas the vampire would be like,
Blood bank.
blood bank. But the thing I do find interesting, though, is apparently in the Underworld series, they say only a small percentage of humans have the ability to turn into vampires. Whereas I feel like in other lore, it's like if you go through the ritual,
Yeah.
or even just get bit by a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's the weird thing, like with vampires, where, like, some of it is like if you get bit, you can become a vampire, but then there's other ones where you need like the blood of like a high vampire, or like a pure blood or royal blood, whatever they want to call it, like one of the closer to like the pure line of vampires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe in Underworld they say it's more like a virus that can be spread, and such that if a person can't transform, they just die within an hour of being bitten. And then I do recall an interview with a vampire. Their whole thing to be able to turn into a vampire was so extra. Like, you had to be like drained of all your blood to the point of basically being dead, and then had to drink the blood of a vampire enough so that you didn't die, and then you became a vampire. And I was like, that sounds miserable.
But that's how Tom Cruise is able to stay so young for all these years. Yeah, but then there's like also the fun thing. Like, I've seen this in a few stories where the person that becomes like a new vampire, like they have like, and then this is the fun part where it's like of how you want the story to go, because it's like they can refuse to drink blood and just they're still stronger than your average human, but they're still
Oh, they're not
still weak.
100% vampire.
Yeah, because it's like they're essentially starving themselves.
Yeah, that makes me think of the plot of Tokyo Ghoul, if you've ever watched or read that.
I read it. I read a few of it. And there's also another one where it's something very similar. I forget what it's called. It's like I only saw the name in Japanese, but I think it's like Seraph something. I don't know. It's angels versus vampires, pretty much.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, another
but
thing. Sorry, before we back or end up off the track of Underworld series completely. Apparently, here's a fun fact for you: where they're immortal and all. However, the original werewolf was able to survive over 800 years of captivity with no food or water and what appeared to be a type of hibernation. So, like, how do I fight that? I can't even starve it or dehydrate it.
it's like I just like to imagine he wakes up it's like, if you got me for 801 years, you would have got me. But yep, just a little bit too early, buddies, buckos. I think the coolest like personality for those people that are able to do that, they're just like I don't know. I always feel like the ones that aren't the ones that are able to have that longevity of life and stuff, but like they want it, are just super angry and super mad that other people have, and are normally the ones that have that. But I always like the people in fiction that like they're like the elder vampire or the elder wolf lord, whatever they're called. And like the high ranking ones, and there's like you obviously have the ones that are like very serious, but then there's that one that's just like, what's up buddy, how you doing? Yeah, oh you shot me. Well, I understand, it's all good, hold on, and just like flexes and like bullet or like whatever goes like dink like out. It's like,
You thought that was
imagine.
gonna work?
It's like, oh you fool, but then it's like, you know how that character's always written, where it's just like this guy's the coolest. He's gonna get his face beaten in the end of this show, where it's just like, you need that like, oh, hold up, he actually like, he's either the turncoat or he's the good guy, where he's like, no, he's the sacrifice. Like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. Like, I just wish there was one. And I'm thinking about it. The character that is kind of like that, which is not a werewolf or a vampire, is like Gildart's from Fairy Tale, because he's just written to be OP, like everyone in that, everyone in that anime. But it's just like, I think he's just like, he never like gets beat until it's like, okay, for story reasons, the main character has to beat you now, even though there's been no like actual growth of power or skill. But yeah, I lost track of where I was going with vampires now. Oh yeah, so the people, there's always the people that it seems like when they are made that, like they either refuse and just become weaker, or if they refuse to drink blood, they become ghouls. When they're just like zombie vampires, pretty much.
Oh, kind of like the Nosferatu.
Yeah, sort of, but they're more like insane from
Oh,
what it
okay.
seems like. Like they lose all like mental facilities, and they just go after closest living thing.
Zombie, but specifically for blood.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess since we were talking about, okay, no, since you looked into Underworld, why was Kate Beckinsale's character so cool? Like I use cool loosely because I don't know if she's actually cool.
I mean, like,
I just know she's in all
I
of
know
them.
she's the poster. Like, she is the poster. I don't even remember what her role is.
She half vampire hair.
Oh, she's also in Van Helsing. I did not realize that part. I forget what she is, though, in...
Probably a human in real life.
I'd hope so. I don't know. Has she aged? I haven't really looked at her pictures through the
I don't
years.
know. Wait, oh, she was Hela in Ragnarok, right? Is that her? I never watched Thor Ragnarok, so
And you assumed I did?
I don't know. You watch the TVs more than me.
I thought we've talked about how I don't really watch Marvel movies before.
you TV is all one big thing.
It's all one thing for you.
One thing that I don't really take part in.
Okay, so Kate Beckinsale's character is a vampire who works as a death dealer, killing the Lycans who allegedly slaughtered her family. And she happens to run into a half lichen, half vampire hybrid.
Oh, okay, so she's not that. Wait, is
She
that
is a
the one
vamp.
she falls in love with?
I
Oh, wait,
think
sorry.
so. But she herself is a vampire who had the job of that. And then there's a whole thing about a vampire lichen war
A
somewhere in
vampire
the.
for hire.
So there are. I only remember watching. I think I remember watching 3 of the Underworld movies. There were apparently one, two, three, four, 5. And there's a short film, and there's a video game.
Yeah, I just remember. Well, I never watched them all or any of them. I just saw bits and pieces. Actually, I remembered. I now remember my only interaction with this. Are you familiar with the YouTube site, our YouTube page, CinemaSins?
Mm-hmm.
So that is how I watched all 3 of those movies.
Although I'm not saying they're good movies, they were very much a
Yeah.
guilty pleasure.
Oh yeah, no, like well, I watched, I watched lots of different styles of movies, but it's I remember them talking about this, and then I used to listen to their podcasts for a little bit. But I remember every time they talked about Underworld, they're like, yeah, those movies don't make sense, but then at the same time, the director was Bacon Cells, Kate's husband, and the guy that she falls in love with is her ex. And there's multiple times in that movie where husband is shooting and telling his wife to go have to go make love with her ex on camera. It's like, man, that either got to be the chillest director or just someone that just needs a friend. I don't know. It's like that's all I that's all I know about the background of those movies. But but yeah. So wait, are there humans in the vampire Wonderworld?
Underworld?
Underworld.
There are, like, the wiki I found references how much stronger they are than people. So I'd assume there. And if there's vampires, there are people because it says specifically that. Well, actually,
Eat blood.
I think they do mention that they'll eat any blood. Like, it doesn't have to be human. Let me check my notes. I just copied a bunch of stuff from several wikis.
That's all good.
It says the vampires in the Underworld franchise are also humivores, meaning they feed on blood. While they primarily consume human blood, vampires, as well as hybrids with the vampire gene, have also been shown to feed from animals and even other vampires, meaning they can be satiated by the blood of other immortals.
It's like the nerdiest thing we ever talked about.
And
we
it's
can talk about board games all day long, but then it's like this. I'm like, this is like the nerdiest thing.
it also says it seems like vampires don't die from starvation. Instead, they grow weaker and weaker until they become dried out husks if they don't eat. So, it's kind
like that character that wants chocolate and SpongeBob.
I guess so. But I mean, it's similar to what you're thinking, but then they decided to take it to an extreme and let them dry out from not eating blood.
So it's like Van Helsing the anime, where Dracula. Oh, that's a spoiler. Anyway.
I haven't watched the anime, so don't go on.
So, main character, one of the characters, we'll say it that way. I don't know. It's really not that big of a spoiler because it's like if you watch it, you're like, oh. But anyway, when you meet this character, he like is just a shriveled up husk, and then a single drop of blood falls on the husk, and like it's pretty much I think Nazis are coming in to like just trying to take out this like the Helsing family, and then vampire comes to life with just one drop of blood and just like murders everybody. Like, oh, okay.
I think they kind of do that with Interview of a Vampire. I should have, if I had watched the Castlevania anime, that might also be a good reference point.
Yeah.
Or played the games. I didn't play the games either.
Well, from what I heard in one of the newest seasons, I don't know if it's season 3 of Castlevania, it's just Dracula like what are we doing? Like him just like seriously, what are we doing, guys? Like what the heck? But so in one of the things, I guess talking about the strength stuff compared to humans, it said that like vampires are like 3 times stronger than a human, which made me think, like, well, how strong is said human?
Yeah,
Like,
my strength is different than like a bodybuilder's strength.
well, like I'm going out on a limb, but I'm pretty sure just our two strengths are different. um, and it's like there's that, and it's like, well, what like is it? They didn't say how much, and it's like, uh, immediately reading that line, I just was thinking like, is it like that episode of Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy wishes he was the strongest thing on the beach, and then just bigger and stronger things keep getting on the beach, and he keeps getting stronger. So it's like each time the vampire faces off against somebody stronger, he just keeps getting bigger.
He either just gets taller or wider.
Yeah, just a roided out vampire. um, there's that. I'm trying to think of a few other things. I know they said silver was a weakness. Which
for vampires?
Yeah, which I think this was on the occultist site, where they said that the reason why silver is a weakness for vampires is that silver naturally absorbs like UV energy from the sun, and that is why it burns it burns whatever they're called, the vampires, and cuts off their regeneration and healing. Hold on, I'm gonna find this.
So, like, are you telling me if I take a silver spoon outside and leave it out in the sun long enough, then I can bring it inside and be like, I need some sun rays, and I could hit myself with a spoon? There's my source of sunlight for the day because I don't go outside.
Yeah, just like put it on your skin, like vitamin D, baby. Okay, so here's what it literally says. Any vampire fan will know that silver is the most powerful anti-vampire material available. Silver damages vampire because it collects the power of UV rays. So when a vampire drinks a silver concoction, like a cordial of silver, or is stabbed with a silver blade, they burn just as they are exposed to daylight. The wounds made by silver prevents the flesh from regenerating as it normally would. And this is off the occult site, so...
So you know it's true.
Yeah.
So wait, how do you trick something into drinking silver?
Hey man, I'll let you have my blood, but first, use my blood as a chaser. Have this.
Yeah, that, like, I understand, like, if you have like a silver sword or a stake that's like coated in silver, like, sure, or a cross made out of silver, but silver concoction,
Yeah,
that one threw me. Do they have a recipe?
No, well, if they do, I didn't look that far.
You didn't go that far in.
There's no hyperlinks in this article. Around. I'm trying to think of some of the other fun things that they wrote in here. From once again, the occult site. If you guys want to look at it, just look up occultist.net, vampire strengths and weaknesses. Another one on here is love. So it just says that vampire stories are usually stories of love and betrayal. Typically, a vampire falls in love with a human. The human loves them back, but after the honeymoon is ended, they start having serious moral doubts about their partner's diet. And then it's pretty much human just, no, I won't do blood sucking anymore, and then they just they go and like cause riots to kill them. Like they go to the human authorities and blah blah blah. So it's just like, apparently vampires are big
Commitment issues.
Well, they're super committed.
Too committed.
They just have bad decision making with who they commit to.
I mean, I do like when they take on the side of the vampires in the stories where, you know, they tell you live forever, and after like 40 years of being the same age, you're like, what's left to do now? Oh, I have another billion years left.
Yeah. Well, like, I think there's also like parts that I see, like, if I think I saw this in stories where if they don't drink the blood, like they still age, but it's slower, and like the blood like keeps them younger.
Okay.
Once again, I don't know. Like I can't.
It depends. Yeah, like I'm gonna keep referencing Interview with a Vampire because I like that movie. But the one girl in it, if you remember, she got turned into a vampire when she got turned into a vampire as a kid, so she never ages. And then they do a whole weird thing where she wishes she could become an adult, but she never will. So they do.
I do remember hearing about that storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, it's sad.
Well, it's funny because there's like I'm trying to remember. There's a manga that goes after that as well, where this person like, oh man, this is like when I'm trying to remember what I read like 10 years ago. It was like an 8-year-old kid became a high school teacher, and one of the there was like a student there that was like an advisor, but she was a vampire. But then she used shape shifting magic to make herself look older, when she was actually like 5 to 7 years old when she turned, and it's like, Japan, why? The only other funny thing that I saw in here as a weakness was the Master's Call. This was on the roleplay thing, supernatural thing, where it's like, no matter the age of the vampire, no matter the age of, wow, if I can, pretty much the vampire will always be under the call of whoever created them, or whoever the master is. So they're always have to listen to whoever their master is, for good or for worse. So I feel like we know what the strengths of vampires are. Like, though I read an article, like vampires are like your speed and agility boys for the most part. Like, they're strong, but
they're sneakier. They have other like things they can do.
Yes, like, so my brain's like, in D&D terms, they're like a thief. They're dexterity based.
Oh, so here's another fun fact. So we were kind of talking about age and things, and then I remembered in Underworld, apparently they say that vampires' physical abilities increase with age and experience.
Yeah.
So, no thank you.
So, yeah, it would be an interesting thing. Like, because, I don't know, the one point you brought was like, okay, 40 years, you're still the same, cool. Like, whenever we talk about superpowers, I always bring up healing factor, and I'm like, that's the one I would want. And then always my friends are like, but you would live forever, or like, you would live close to forever until it slowed down. But it's just like, everyone you know would like pass away and die and all that stuff, and I'm like, true, but that means I win.
You go to all their funerals and like, guess who's still going on with their power? Yeah, you wanted to read minds.
Yeah, how's that going for you now with your dementia now?
Wow, I said a grave.
I don't know. It's, if I had that ability, if I had anything that was like life extending, it's like, people already think I'm nuts enough. Now imagine if there was like multiple like centuries put behind that.
I remember back in my day.
Which one? Shut up.
No, I think I've seen a meme go around on the internet that someone told their niece that they were older than Google and they didn't believe them.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like,
when did Google start?
I think they put the year down. It was well after I had the internet. Because I remember using like AOL. So Google lists their birthday as September 4th of 1998.
I am older than Google.
So I don't know if that's just the start of the company when they became a company, or that's when they like publicly started pushing for it.
I don't know. Still, I am older than Google for 9 years. I'm 9 years older than Google. But I'm pretty sure, unless something bad happens, if Epic is able to take down Google, then maybe I'll still
Not Google, Apple.
Google's trying to get on that.
Well, yeah, because Apple,
yeah,
it made a lot of moves, and Google's like, oh, I guess I can too.
Talking about the corporate vampires.
And then it's like, wait, you guys just make yourselves look even greedier.
Yeah.
But Backing it up. Backing it
That's a
up.
different podcast topic. Where if you want to hear that, just listen to any video game news podcast.
Basically.
um, but yeah, I can't really think of anything else like, um, again that would build the case that isn't like commonly known for vampires.
So like overall, like I said, like in the underworld universe, I would definitely not want a werewolf around. Do like where do you stand with all of your collected knowledge?
I I would think that okay. So from what I've been reading, it seems like a vampire they have to do a lot more work to get like if you're barricading yourself in your house, there's a lot more work for them to get into your house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like as we said, like there's multiple things like they had to be invited in, or they like to do that, or I've also saw like the brainwashing thing. But there's just it seems like there's something that they have to do to get your attention, and you as yourself like would need to do something to allow them to come in, whether it's like be under hypnotism or stuff. And it's like if you're in a situation of your house,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, if you're out and about, still super scary, especially with their like kind of super speed and all that stuff, like super dangerous. I'm leaning more towards werewolves because they don't have that restriction. They're just like super strong dudes that like if they want to get into your place,
They're getting in.
they're getting in.
Yeah, it was interesting. I do know like a lot of lore has it such that vampires, they have to be invited into the homestead and things like that. I didn't see any of that in Underworld, but it could just be that they never actually,
Yeah.
Underworld's more about like, werewolves versus vampires literally
Mm-hmm.
constantly, and there's no people for them to have to interact with, so it might be why it doesn't come up. The Van
Yeah.
Helsing, I think Van Helsing does bring it up as a weakness.
Mm-hmm. There's also a thing like where like they bring this up in shoot, what's it called? What We Do in the Shadows, where the reason they're stuck in Australia is that they can't cross the ocean because it's running water. And they're like,
Yes,
we're just
yeah, that
stuck
is a
here.
weakness.
And so that's the only reason they're there is because they're like, yeah, what's his name? I think it's like no, I can never pronounce it, but like the old one that lives in the basement. I think they name him Peter.
Yeah.
And, like
Can
his
we have
whole
a roommate meeting? Did you invite Peter? We don't
it's
invite
like
Peter.
and it just cuts to him like bah! Screaming
He throws a chicken down there and
chicken
closes
ass.
the door.
Yeah. Uh, but it's like the because he's I think if I remember correctly, Peter's the one that turned all of them into vampires.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the way Peter got there was that he was in his coffin and then it fell out of a boat, and then the currents just brought him here, and he's like, well, I can't leave now, so it just made people vampires, and but yeah, that's why they're all there, which really helps out why they can't go to like I don't know. It will be very interesting to see if they would ever make an appearance in the TV show. Maybe by like Zoom call or something. But anyway, would they show up? Because
They one of or two of them do. So I think they change a little bit of the lore for the sake of the show because the show takes
mm-hmm.
place on Staten Island,
Okay,
and they're European vampires that came,
all right,
and then they made comments about it. But
yeah. But yeah, so yeah, the running water thing and like I don't know, it's just definitely one of those things where it feels like vampires have like they have their definite weaknesses where it's like holy water, sunlight, fire,
mm-hmm.
but then they have like these very oddball rules where it's like oh no, like and that would be the most dangerous thing where it's just like okay, can like if like, can they come into my house if they want, or do I have to let them in? Can they hypnotize me, or I don't know. It's like,
Yeah, there are a lot of like hidden rules in it. The thing that
yeah,
I found when I was reading up on the Van Helsing stuff, like I lean, like I said earlier with the underworld, I lean more towards the werewolves as being an issue. But in Van Helsing, they try to say that if the full moon is blocked by clouds in any way, then they immediately lose their werewolf powers. So like I feel like in some instances they say like if it's a full moon night, then all night that they're werewolves. But in Van Helsing, they're like if it's cloudy enough and the moonlight isn't hitting them, no more werewolf. So I guess if they get into your house at that point and you have no windows, are you safe?
yeah, true. Well, like, isn't it the end of the Van Helsing movie? They're like in a building and he turns into a werewolf.
It's been a long time since I've watched it, honestly. I looked it up. Apparently, the movie came out in 2004, so
Yeah,
I don't
I know it's a
remember
very
much.
old movie.
Another thing that I thought was interesting is apparently it says that, I mean, I know we're saying, like, in the case that we have to fight them, but this was just, I thought this was a fun fact that I didn't remember, is that apparently werewolves have a venom to them. As such, werewolf venom, in theory, can kill Dracula. And then Dracula apparently came up with a cure so to remove the venom from the bloodlines of werewolves to turn them back into people. And I was like, So if Dracula shared that with me, I could.
Yeah, me and Dracula were buds. He comes over, plays the Switch.
He gives me the cure for werewolves, and I promise not to like give him any werewolf venom by accident in his drinks, and we're cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's oh man. You know what this really feels like? It honestly feels like there was a guy who like made vampires. We'll just say vampires were made first.
hmm
And then this other guy made werewolves. And then it was constantly like there was like they got their like little fan groups and it was like, "Oh man, dude, werewolves would totally destroy vampires." And it's like, "No, vampires would totally destroy werewolves." And then they would look at the creators and they're like, yeah, the it's like yeah, the what is it? It's like, well, you all know vampires. You're like totally weak to silver, and it's like so are werewolves. And guess what? Dracula is super invincible from your venom. And he's like, we have venom. Yeah, well, we can go into any house that we want. And he's like, yeah, but we don't have to rely on the moon. Plus, I can turn into a bat. Dang it! Oh, I can turn into a wolf.
Yeah,
Just
it's like what I feel happens to anytime you try and create something stronger than a person. Instead of just going, oh, scary, they go, what if the alien fought the predator? It's like, wait, no one asked.
yeah,
Nope. Well, I guess somebody did, but I never
the
did.
wrong person. So, yeah. So I guess I'll share the one resource that I looked read years ago called Wolf Guy, and just like for people who have no clue what it is, pretty much um, this guy he is a werewolf and he's like in hiding. He's been around for like centuries, like years upon years, and he's in his ways and all that. He's like he's not bothering anybody. He's like, okay, well, this I think what happens is that there's another person that comes and like he's a new werewolf and like starts causing havoc, and it gets to the point where he has to go deal with this werewolf. But because this werewolf was like going nuts, it brought in a lot of attention from werewolf hunters. I can't remember if there's vampires in this series, but like it's just started bringing in all this unwanted attention. And like in short, there's a whole like love storyline where it's just like these people are using this girl that like he was helping protect from this other like werewolf nut person. Be like, yeah, no, like, and they're using her as a weakness. Um, but one of the things that was very interesting is like, yeah, silver was a weakness, from what I remember. But it's like the very interesting that I even reading a few things is like silver's a weakness, but like it's more like an inconvenience. Like it stops their regenerative powers for a bit, but they can keep going. 'Cause they're just like, it's like, oh, I can't regenerate as faster. I'm still like 3 Arnold Schwarzeneggers in his prime, like fused together. Um, and it's just like they just like he was super strong and like break open things. The thing that I thought was really interesting with this, which may be a weakness, was like the only way they could kill a werewolf was when I forget what phase of the moon, a new moon where the moon wasn't shining.
Mm.
So their powers and strength came from the phases of the moon. And like when he took down this werewolf and like all this attention was, it was like at the end of a full moon. And like the guy, he was still super strong in his human form and was strong but like he couldn't really turn into a vampire. So he gets to the point, not vampire, he couldn't turn into a werewolf. Um, so it gets to this point where like he can take on like maybe 2 or 3 humans at a new moon, but like if they keep coming and start shooting him, like there's a whole point where it's like they bring him to like an edge of his life with like normal weapons and stuff because it's a new moon. And then because he's the main character, and plus humans are like, well, let's experiment. And it's just like they don't pay attention to the phases of the moon and whether they don't know or whatever. And it's just like the new moon happens and he's just like, I'm gonna kill you all. Like,
Revenge time.
Yeah, and but that was something I never really read or heard. Uh, like I know we haven't gone into it yet, but it's like D&D and Pathfinder. Really, the only time that it happens for people to turn into werewolves um, is in during a full moon.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's stuff like that would happen, and but like outside of that, it's just really it's like okay, it's just an ability. And then like it sounds like in Van Helsing, it's like you need to have some moonlight on you, and then I don't know, in Underworld it just sounds like okay, I'm wolf now.
Yeah, it said that the first wolf was so primal, he just was always wolf, almost never back to human. Or I think never back to human. And then there's a whole line or comment about their dad being like, it's because of his unfiltered rage. He's always angry, therefore he always wolf. But no, that's pretty interesting. I like it in this term of like werewolves because they literally live off the power of it, like of moonlight. I do recall, if you've ever seen the live version of Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think M. Night Shyamalan did rewrite it in a way such that the Fire Nation relied on moons. And I think he said instead they're strongest around the blood moon. And it was like a whole thing. And we're like, wait, how did the Fire Nation take over the world if they only have one day that they've been able to go to war every year?
Productive day.
Yeah. Because, like, I know that anime is that whole, like, they kept exerting their force over time to be able to, you know, to prove that they're the best nation. But I don't know. The live action movie is something else that I like to try to forget. I like the phases of the moon for a wolf because a lot of their lore ties around changing because of the moon.
Story-wise, it makes a much more interesting story plot. Like if your main character is a werewolf and like that is how their powers are tied.
Because you need to have highs and lows for a character.
Yeah. I know there's a Korean webtoon called Noblesse, I think it's called, where I believe it's getting an anime. Can't remember. But pretty much the whole point of that is like this royal vampire, like he's like the last pure blood vampire alive, and he comes back, and like Frankenstein for some reason is like immortal and like serves him. And
like the monster or the doctor?
The doctor. Well, it's not very clear, and I don't remember.
Was one stitched together, or was one in?
No.
Oh.
No, it's not stitched. He calls himself Frankenstein. Like
I don't know why the doctor would be immortal.
Yeah. So like I think it's the created like golem, but like it's at the same time it hasn't really, like, I stopped reading it because I'm like, this kind of gets repetitive. But it the most interesting part about it is that it takes a lot of these supernatural, like European style supernatural creatures, and they're it's pretty much like Dracula comes back, but he has a limited mana pool for his abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very small mana pool that is never refills, but everything is like max effect, and it's like that's the whole point of this thing, where it's just like the whole reason he fell asleep originally was because he didn't have enough power. Like he stopped the one thing, but lost like 95% of his original power in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to sleep, and Frankenstein's like, "Okay, I'm going to protect you now, buddy." And or which like he starts, he's like, "Master," and then uh, when he comes back, he's like, everyone's like, "Well, he's a vampire, so he's gonna go like do vampire things," and he's like, "No." And like he just, since he's like royalty, starts like inducting like all these different monsters and stuff. He's like, "I like you, even though you're a werewolf, and we're like, everyone hates us. Like you, like we're supposed to hate each other. Like you're a good being. You serve me now." And like whenever he does that, he loses a bit of his power, but at the same time, these dudes get like a huge jump in their own. He's like, "Okay, you go fight." And so like the whole time he's like just this deadpan character, so like, I don't want to be here. I don't understand what's going on. And it's just like everyone's like anime freaking out.
Mm.
And then it's like One Punch Man, except like he's not as clueless.
That is One Punch Man's charm.
Mm-hmm.
Saitama is a great clueless character.
Yes. Um, so yeah, it always seems like there's some fun twists and turns they could do with vampires, but still, with even if it was the phases of the moon and all that, like in the comic, like even though he could be taken down by humans, like during a new moon, he still could get into places and like climb up buildings, and he couldn't fully transform, but he could like partially transform himself.
Okay, yeah, I did see some things where they say that like with they can kind of control like the claws or their teeth with or without
Mm-hmm.
the full moon, so that they can like climb or bite as need be.
Mm-hmm. So, which still, like,
Just
even
that alone, I would lose a fight. Oh, you
yeah.
have pointy nails.
Reminds
I'd
me of that
lose.
Family Guy episode where Meg, like, they all get superpowers, and Meg just makes her fingernails grow longer. And you're like, "What's your power?" She grows her nails. Like, "That's stupid." Just scratches the dude's face. Like, ah! Just starts freaking out.
the the lesser cool part of Wolverine.
Yeah. Oh man, it's still one of my favorite parts of Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel's series run, when she meets Wolverine after he loses his healing factor, and it's just like they have this huge conversation, and she's like, "Wait, you don't have your healing factor?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't." "So you're just an angry man that yells and stabs things?" And it's like, "Pretty much." And then they become like really good friends. And just like, oh man, if anyone wants to know a good place to start reading Marvel comics, Miss Marvel, the Kamala Khan series, really really fun start. Like my mod's reading it now, even though I told him years ago to read it. He's like, "This is great." So um so yeah. But yeah, it sounds like we pretty much are for werewolves, even with their
You mean
proposed
against
reasons.
wanting to fight werewolves?
Yeah, against, like, yes,
Like if
werewolves
we
win in what we don't want to fight.
yes. Yeah. And but the weird thing is, I know we talked about comparing the RPG stat blocks. Vampires are really gross in D&D, and werewolves seem very meh.
Yeah.
Is that the same
Um.
case in Pathfinder?
Oh, hold on, I gotta clear things. Get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty beefy. So, hold on, I gotta clear this off too. So, um, brain died. For werewolves, I'm not werewolves. For vampires, they are a CR challenge, which is, I think it's like a character rank. I think I forget what state.
CR is challenge rating.
Challenge rating, yeah. Your basic vampire is a challenge rating 9.
Oh, they're
Um,
13 in D&D.
I'm just scrolling down. Yeah, well, like I think they're beef boys in that too.
Mm-hmm.
While a lycanthrope, uh, they're they're a challenge rating of 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the power difference is pretty pretty close. The D&D werewolf is only a challenge rating 3. For anyone that doesn't understand challenge ratings and all you've done is play like RPG games, in D&D they also list how much experience you get per fighting monsters if you want to play like an experience-based campaign.
Mm-hmm.
If you defeat a werewolf, you get 700 XP. Sounds good, right?
600 for Pathfinder.
And a vampire is 10,000 XP in D&D.
Yeah, this is 6,400 for Pathfinder.
It's such an absurd difference.
I wonder if that's the case because werewolf, like lycanthropy, is seems like it's much more like character, like that characters can become werewolves a little bit easier. But there's, I know in fourth edition you could be a vampire. Like I was a vampire
I
in fourth
think I
edition.
think you'd still make it work in fifth. I just don't know if there's anything official in print. But
I don't
I
know. They have
do,
that new book coming out, so who knows?
yeah. Which reminds me, oh, I was supposed to pre-order that because you get special editions of the book covers if you pre-order the rule sets.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway,
maybe I should do that too.
no, but from what I've heard, I've had friends go like, "Hey, can I be a werewolf in your D&D campaign?" And the DM's like, "You're better off being a druid." And we just say you look like a werewolf when you transform. Because, like, the stat blocks, from what I understand, are, like, weaker than if you just became a druid and leveled up and picked, like, a great wolf.
hmm Well, the fun thing about Pathfinder is there's different forms. I'm seeing if I can find it real quick.
Okay, from what I can see, the werewolf in D&D, the shape changer, you just turn into either full wolf or wolf humanoid hybrid, and then you get your bite and claws attacks. Or a multi attack as a monster. It
Hold on, I'm just scrolling through this list. Oh, there it is.
looks like the
Um,
main benefit of being a werewolf monster in D&D is they're immune to slashing damage from non-magical attacks, not made
so,
with silvered weapons.
so there's multiple were creatures
Mm.
in see if I click this, will just bring me to a huge list. Okay, there we go. So lycanthropy is like a curse slash like more like a disease that
Mm-hmm.
people can have, and I remember if you get attacked, bitten by something that is has lycanthropy, that you have, I think, like a fortitude save against it, and if you fail it, then you get this, and then if you can't, normally the way diseases work in Pathfinder is that you have your first fortitude or whatever skill base thing that you need to do to fight against it, and then it will put you on a track, and then if you can't succeed it a second time, you permanently have it, or you go farther down the disease track, depending on what it is. So I'm just gonna go up and down these lists, and oh well, actually, let me before I do that, the way with werewolves or with lycanthropy for characters is that there's 3 different phases. So you have your human phase, your monster phase, which is like you go more into your creature style thing, and then there's the hybrid stage where you're half human, half whatever creature you are, and it's like I know one of them is a werebat, and one of the podcasts I listen to, there's a guy who is a werebat, and he's able to focus his form to do different things. So he's like able to do perception checks a little bit better, or he's able to move quicker with a different form, or he's able to attack better with one of those three forms, um, depending on what it is. But here's some of the other ones. I don't know what there's. It says silver blood. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna just. Um, okay, so it looks like a snarling creature has a woman's body, but the head and claws of a savage wolf. That's a CR 5 encounter. So,
So like, is the CR2, is that just the werewolf, and then these
yeah.
other phases are higher up
Other
versions?
phases are higher versions. So there's the werebat. I'm just gonna open them up.
So my other question is, can you start your life as a werewolf and eventually graduate to be a werebat, or are you just one for life?
You are whatever race you choose.
Okay, so then,
or whatever you're infected with. Like you don't choose.
so then Pathfinder offers you different versions as well. It's just that the base werewolf also stinks.
But they also have different attributes as well. So there's werebears, which all werebears are, not all, but like most of them are aligned lawful good.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a podcast I was listening to where this character, I think he was an evil or chaotic neutral style character, and they pretty much like got fed up with this one town. And he's like, I'm gonna go back and burn that town. Yeah. And he's like, let's do it. And he's like, wait a second, I'm gonna become like a werebear at night. And he's like, okay. And he goes and does that, and he comes back like a couple hours later and wakes up one of the characters, and he's like a bear. He's like, yo man, what's up? Like, I'm like feeling really good. And he's like, what is going on? And he's like, and he tells everyone at the table, like, yeah, werebears they're lawful good. There's no way he would go back and destroy that town. And so he's like, yeah man, I'm gonna go like weave baskets and like catch some salmon. You want some? And he's just like super chill, and they're like, oh okay. A few of the others, there's a were boar, were rat, a were tiger, werewolf, which we said, and then some of the really fun ones. There's a were crocodile, a were raptor, and a were shark.
Were shark makes me just think of like
I'm looking these up.
Sci-fi movies. Like I remember watching Sharktopus.
I don't know if were raptor is a real thing because it doesn't have a CR rating.
So is that a homebrew?
It might be a homebrew thing, but the rest of these, it looks like at some point were a real thing. But yeah, so there's different options that you can do with them. Like it's a curse. Wait, hold on. Some of them are curses. Some with other ways, the most common they said is an infection to get it. So it's like a disease, and then there's just a whole bunch of different ways to clear it. So it can be cured with either like medicine or magic, or just one of the highest spells in the game.
Oh, of course, naturally.
Yeah. Called Wish, where you can, Miracle or Wish, which you have to be like a level 9 wizard, which I think is close to a level 20. Like to cast level like 9 spells, you have to be like a level 18 or higher wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And wish, like whatever you want to wish, it comes into like it's there's just super broken spells, which is why you get them at the end.
Super broken characters for a super broken campaign.
Yes.
You live that long, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, there's a character in this podcast I'm listening to. It's the same one, but he took a character from level 1 at the start of this adventure path, and they're almost on the last book. There are always 6 books, and he's taking this character through all 5 books, and they're not pulling punches or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like they gave him one like get out of jail free card, where it was just like, but it put the party and everything in a real bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be interesting to see if that character will die or not. They're like, it's his story. Like there's just so many things that are tied into that story because of him. It's so cool. So yeah, that was one of the neat things about lycanthropy, like in Pathfinder, where it's not just a werewolf or stuff.
Yeah, it's possible there's that in D&D, but I just stuck to werewolf to keep us.
Like we're not gonna go into all that.
Yeah, because that's a lot of discussion. A wereraptor might be the worst thing to fight, but
Mm-hmm.
No.
Or like were rats, they're literally player. You can make a character off of were rats. So yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah.
um, yeah,
No.
I'm just looking through real quick the vampire stuff.
I don't think there's anything specifically in the D&D vampire stuff that's entirely different than what we've already kind of covered. The only thing that I think comes up is in D&D, they're allowed to call upon bats and rats as long as the sun's not up. And if they're outdoors, they can call upon wolves. I think it's called Children of the Night.
Yeah, there's something. It's literally called Children of the Night here. Same
Whoa!
thing.
It's
Called
like
rat swarms and bat swarms.
it's like one RPG system was built off of another.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So they also have crate spawn in here where vampires can create spawns out of those who it slays. So it's just like with certain attacks, whether it's blood drain or energy drain attacks.
Are there legendary actions in Pathfinder?
I don't think so. Not that I know of.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I remember reading about it, but now I'm like blanking out.
I'm just curious because the vampire, because it's such a high challenge rating, does have
people
them.
who don't know, do you want to just explain legendary?
I have never had a DM a creature with legendary actions. I just see it within the stat block. One of the things that they list is that vampires 3 times a day have legendary resistance, such that if they fail a saving throw, they can just choose to succeed it. Like, I cast the spell. He passes. What did he roll? He passes.
Yeah.
And then there's also actions, and it says that a vampire can take 3 legendary actions, choosing from one of the options below. Only 1 legendary option can be used at a time, and only at the end of another creature's turn. So maybe it's like out of turn things they can choose to do. And
yeah, I think I remember seeing a video where they were fighting like a pretty big character, and it's pretty much like that way. Like characters can't just one shot, like or just
your big bad guy.
Yeah, it's like there is a threat, but there's a limited amount of get out of jail for free cards they can do.
Yeah, it says that the vampire can regain any spent legendary actions at the start of their next turn, and the things they can do are move, make an unarmed strike, or bite. So yeah, so it does give them more movement between characters' turns to be like, I'm still scary big bad boy. Look at me. And vampire.
Yeah, one of the things that vampires have that werewolves don't in Pathfinder is that they have fast healing, which fast healing, I'm just clicking on to make sure I'm going to say what it is correctly. Yep, okay. So at the end of each turn, it will regain a certain amount of hit points. So unless you do something to cut off its regenerative powers, like fire or whatever. And so yeah, this one keeps getting 5 hit points back each turn.
Oh.
I know some giants can get like 10 hit points back.
In D&D, it's the vampire regains 20 hit points at the start of its turn if it has at least 1 hit point and isn't in sunlight or running water. Although, if it takes radiant damage or damage from holy water, this trait doesn't function at the start of their next turn.
Yeah, that, like, this is just a constant heal. Like, there's no...
No, yeah, this is a constant. It says the vampire gains 20 hit points at the start of its turn.
Right, like, well, you said when, unless it was in certain areas.
As long as
it's...
Like,
not including weaknesses.
No, those are its weaknesses. So, if it's not... Yeah, if it's not standing in sunlight or in running water.
Yeah, so those, from what I'm seeing right here, and it just might be the website I'm looking at, that's not an issue either. So it's just...
Do they have weaknesses in Pathfinder?
Yeah, they do. I just clicked on vampire weaknesses.
Oh.
It's, and then it brought me to a whole big thing. Yeah, so, they don't like garlic. I forgot that was a thing.
I see that in a lot of vampire lore.
Yeah, I read it a lot, but then as we started the conversation, I forgot. They have to stay at least 5 feet away from any mirror or holy symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Vampires can't enter private home and dwelling in Pathfinder. without permission. Yeah, and then I'm guessing the same with D&D. You can take their hit points down to 0 or lower, but that doesn't always mean that it's destroyed with fast healing or basic healing. And then yeah, and then the wooden stake through a helpless vampire's heart will slay it immediately. So yeah, there's a few things. However, it returns to life. Unless the head is severed and anointed with holy water.
All the steps. Yeah, it says here that the wooden stake will just paralyze the vampire until the stake is removed.
So, yeah.
But it doesn't sound like running water is an issue in Pathfinder.
Yeah. I think with running water, depending how it is, like that more just becomes rough terrain and more or difficult terrain, which cuts your movement speed in half, which is a bigger issue. But
for a vampire, it's a pretty big issue. They take 20 acid damage in D&D if they stand in it.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, difficult terrain is bad, but at least it doesn't actively kill me as a human. It doesn't burn my skin.
Yeah, but it also sounds like... Wait, so how much health does it take?
20 acid damage if it ends its turn standing in running water.
Okay, so that pretty much just counteracts the fast movement.
Yeah.
So,
the regeneration.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely, like, I don't know. It's like I haven't really run any or heard or been part of any Pathfinder games with vampires, and
no, but like in both RPG systems, a vampire sounds much worse than a werewolf, at least in basic like adventure combat. Whereas all the movies and everything else we watch, we're like, yeah, they have too many contingency plans.
But like now that I'm thinking about it, though, like just going off the D&D thing, Curse of Strahd, if you're gonna base a campaign off of taking out a vampire, it's normally like this high-ranking, like vampire that's been around forever, and they're not coming to you; you're going to it. And so, generally, like werewolves, that's like the one thing werewolves don't have. It seems like in all the lore that we have, where it's like vampires have a hierarchy, and it's like a deep hierarchy with all of these random, like royalty, pretty much. While werewolves, it's either they're lone wolves or they're in packs, and it's like they have the alpha, and it's very, very simple. So it's like it seems that werewolves, like they're very intimidating and strong and all that, but they, like, in short, like as we've been saying, like they're a bigger threat to me today because they can't be stopped if they want to get into your house. But then again, if that is just in a one-off, like facing thing, where if it's a battle of longevity, I think the vampire would win because it seems like whether its intelligence is lowered or whatever, werewolves and people with lycanthropy are pretty much meatheads. And they don't plan ahead far enough or anything. So they're really good in war and battle because they're strong and all that, but vampires are like, no, we're going to, like, there's going to be that one's like, I'm taking over now, y'all listening to me and moving forward. Whereas like Curse of Strahd is a very good example where I think a lot of people would know.
Yeah, I ran Curse of Strahd for a little bit. Didn't finish it with my group, but
but yeah, where it's just you gotta go in and take them out. And so I think that's probably like where these games and all that stuff, like I didn't look up Call of Cthulhu, but it's just like it could be, I don't know, knowing how that game works, they're probably both terrible.
Everything awful.
Anything that isn't a baby is terrible to face in that game.
No,
and
but
like even a baby is oh no, buy it.
no, that's a good point. It would be interesting to see if someone has written a module themselves where they take a werewolf thing and maybe not making such like a hierarchy you have to fight through, but packs and packs and packs and packs
Yeah.
to find the alpha who keeps turning people into werewolves.
It sounds like it. So, Giant Slayer, which is an adventure path for Pathfinder, and that's kind of what it's like, where you go and fight giants over and over. Like you start off fighting orcs, and then from orcs you go and like you just work your way up from orcs. Where once you get into book 3, you're fighting like 2 or 3 different style giants, and giants are really scary in Dungeons and Dragons. They're oh man, they're very very scary in Pathfinder. So, like
Big old boys with a whole lot of don't hurt me.
yes, and then well, there hasn't been a whole lot that can cast spells, but then once you get the dragons, the giants that can cast spells, you're like, oh no.
I could keep you at a distance. Now what?
Yep. So, but no, that would be a very interesting thing where it's like, now I'm just imagining like going into a like Resident Evil 4 style town. I don't know if you ever played Resident Evil 4, but like pretty much you start off in a village, and then from the village you go to this castle, and then from the castle you go to this military base island. It would be interesting to do something. I feel like something like that where it's just like, or maybe like Ghost of Tsushima-esque, where it's maybe in reverse, where it's like there's this island where werewolves have taken over, and you like it's a sandbox style thing where it's like, go clear the werewolves. I don't know.
That would be entertaining.
Yeah.
So how are we doing time wise for a quiz?
Let's see. We might be good because we're just at the 2-hour mark. However, I know that we probably talked for about like 30 to 40 minutes before we actually started.
All right, so we'll start off with one quiz and then see where we end up.
Yeah, see where we go. You found both of these, so I'll let you choose. Which one do you feel?
I like the idea of the BuzzFeed one because it's about our energy. It's titled, "Do you give off vampire energy or werewolf energy?"
All right, so do we want to write down what one we think we're going to get?
We can. I will put for our live audience the quiz in our chats for anyone that would like to participate along with us. Feel free to share your results as we take it ourselves. For anyone listening on their favorite podcast platform, we will be sure to put the link in the description for you guys to take yourselves. So, all right. So,
I wrote down what I think they're going to give me.
Do I have a spare piece of? I guess I have a spare piece of paper.
You have that book. No.
I'm not ripping pages out of it, though.
Hey there. By the way, guys, just for people who are just showing up now, we're recording a podcast, and we might not be able to answer chat, but we see you, and hello. So.
Okay. So I wrote it down. So,
right. I wrote mine down.
Who wants to start reading the questions?
Now I want to write down what I think you would be and see if I would be right.
All right, let's do that.
Okay. Spoilers, it's the opposite of what I wrote for myself.
So we will reveal this after the survey. If you're watching this as a video, we will display it. For anyone who would have liked to have watched this in video format, we are slowly uploading episodes onto our YouTube channel. We don't have a great link right now, but we can put the link in the description for you guys. And if you search Pointless Discourse on YouTube, you should be able to find us.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll start with the quiz. I'll start reading.
Okay.
Okay. Which of these words best describe you? Persistent, loyal, brave, curious. And now I'm like trying to like not think too far ahead to force my answer.
To force your answer so that you're right.
Yeah. Now I'm sitting there like.
I think
man.
People would say that I'm persistent above the most out of these.
I don't know. I'm like torn between curious and brave. I'll do brave. That seems more of a consistent thing.
Okay. What's your greatest fear? Hurting someone, being alone, failure, or death? I think mine is being alone.
If I choose being alone, that totally goes against what I said about healing factor.
You don't get, yeah, you don't get to live with that. I wanted to just teleport.
Yeah,
I can do that alone.
you
I
can
might have to.
yeah, if it's like a jumper situation. I'll do the hurting someone. Man, I'm not used to this like going bam right down to the next one. Oh shoot, there's multiple answers. Okay. Which image do you feel the most drawn to? How do I always get this?
Just describe.
Okay, so there looks like a dude in a Dark Souls catacomb with a torch, and it's very dark. The second image, it looks like palm trees with a moon. This
A full
one,
moon, too.
full moon, yes, full moon. Thank you. There's the third image is a forest with some fog. The fourth image is a red room with a bunch of people. I'm guessing a concert.
I would have to guess concert, rave, something like that.
It looks like it was taken out of Blade.
The color filter is strong with that photo.
Yes. This fifth image is a graveyard.
Oh, I thought it was a garden. But I see the tombstones now.
I could see both, but one normally doesn't put gravestones up in their garden.
Hey, maybe it's Halloween.
And then again, it's like, I just wanted my plants to have a good afterlife. And the last one is, it looks like some adolescents around around a fire.
Yeah, I personally really like campfires and s'mores and things, so I like that picture.
So, I really like the woods, but there's a part of me that is super allergic to poison ivy that doesn't want to go in these woods.
Well, it just said picture you're drawn to, so which one gives you the vibes? It's what energy you give off.
There's negative vibes coming from this blood rager picture over here. But I do like fire. I'm choosing the forest.
Okay. What would you say is your worst trait? Impulsiveness, aggression, lustful, self-indulgent, hateful, or envious?
Why isn't there not like so awesome?
I mean, I think I'm a hateful person. I'm full of hate.
As she laughs. I would say impulsiveness. I think Hop's gotten a little bit of my impulsiveness things in our, hey, this sounds like a good idea. Like, pretty much what I wrote this afternoon.
I have to write this down before I forget.
Yes. Ignore it if you have to. How do you usually spend, oh, well, this is a fun one. We're streamers. We spend it on the computer. How do you usually spend your Friday nights? Partying, staying at home, binging a TV show, having a night out on the town with friends, with my friends, and reading at home.
Yeah, you don't want to accidentally go out on the town with somebody else's friends. That's awkward.
Exactly.
I like reading, but I will also binge TV. What have I been doing lately? Lately, I've been watching more TV than reading.
On my Friday nights, I read chat.
So reading a book?
Reading at home, but that's not the thing. I play League of Legends on Fridays. I'm just gonna do the staying at home one. Like, it's not binging a TV show, but I'm not gonna read.
All right, and lastly, what's your favorite scary creature aside from werewolves or vampires? Bigfoot, ghosts, Loch Ness monster, demons, zombies, or Wendigo?
Ghost. I want a house with ghosts in it so I can charge it ghost bucks.
So look, I'm tied between Bigfoot and Loch Ness monster because something is so funny to me that no one has definitive proof that they exist, but people will put up warning signs to say drive slow, Bigfoot is here. Like, it's, I think I like Bigfoot more than the Loch Ness monster. That's funnier to me. Okay,
so,
I have my answer. Are we revealing what we thought each other's answers were before we read out each other's answers?
we'll read out each other's answers. So, do you want to go first?
Okay. I just didn't know if we should do the reveal of what we thought of each other so that
Yeah.
we don't go, "Oh yeah, I totally said that was
Then,
you."
yes, that makes sense. So,
So I wrote mine on one of my leftover rabbits from the charity thing. Not a real rabbit, a paper rabbit. I don't think you can read it in the camera because my ring light is too
Your
bright.
32 lights.
So I said that I would give off vampire energy and that DPayne would give off werewolf energy.
Yeah, it was the same thing I wrote.
I am indeed a vampire.
I'm indeed a werewolf.
Congratulations, you're a vampire, an undead creature of the night. You're an old soul with a pensive, reflective, and often seductive nature. You're unstoppable when you set your mind to something, and we advise everyone to stay out of your way. Remember, beware garlic and stay out of the sunlight. Also, avoid getting a stake stabbed into your heart, but that's pretty much just good advice for anyone. Am I right?
Like, is it a T-bone steak? Oh, look at that. I need to write down that link.
Oh, hush.
Oh, I got it too.
But what's the werewolf thing?
Sorry, I'm getting rid of a guy. So, okay, so werewolf starts with a woo. Congratulations, you are a werewolf, a child of the moon. You may be quiet and reserved around strangers, but there's quite literally a party animal inside you waiting to break free. You have an infamous temper and tend to be quite impulsive, but you are a loyal friend with a valuable sense of intuition. Remember, stay away from silver and beware of the full moon. And maybe take a bath because you kind of smell like a wet dog.
Wouldn't that make you smell more like a wet dog? Because you'd be wet.
I would be, yes. With my ability to sweat. Like, so, let's be real. That was a very obvious kind of, is there other answers to that? Like, were there, like, secret answers?
I hope not.
That would be great. Just like there's a 1% chance. It's the same thing I said in Fall Guys, where like I want a 1% chance that whoever wins the match gets kicked off of the bin.
Ouch.
Or like if you survived and it's just like maybe it's like if it tracks like how close you stood at the end and just kind of just like griefed people or whatever. It would that's like an impossible thing to find out. It'd be funny. Just like I just want a 1% chance. It'd be great.
Yeah, the only other one I had is also probably gonna be pretty obvious because it's just another vampire or werewolf.
Okay,
but...
well, we had our control. Now we have to see if we can replicate to find out, are we really what the first test said?
Okay, okay.
I believe we have time. So
you say that every time.
Nuh-uh. There's the one time I agreed with it that we didn't want to go do our quizzes because we were too in the weeds with random tangents.
Okay, so then I'll start off reading questions and I will share this link as well. Share.
I really want to go to the site now to see what it is. Every time I get these sites in, not the one that you just linked, but these spam accounts, I just want to look at it.
Yeah, for anyone listening to the podcast that's not with us in chat, DPayne has gotten distracted because we have gotten our once a day spam about how to increase our follower and view count. But if you click the link provided.
They didn't provide a link. We have to type it out ourselves. Well,
either way, I deleted the message. I'm ignoring it.
Oh, I deleted it too. But I can read it out loud for everybody. Go ahead, read your question.
All right. It's not my question. It's the question of the quiz. I didn't write this question.
But you're the one reading it, thus it makes it yours.
So question 1, do you have an active social life? I go where I'm invited. I'm a party animal. I enjoy nightlife once in a while, or I have too much fun and tend to wake up in strange places.
How come there's not like no?
I mean, like, I am a night owl.
Yeah.
But I guess once in a while I enjoy nightlife.
That's kind of where I'm looking at 2. I'm choosing that one. It's like every once in a while. Like PAX East. Or PAX Unplugged. Okay. Do you take selfies? For some reason, they never come out well. I'm embarrassed of my unibrow. I always look like I've been up all night. Nah.
I always look like I've been up all night.
Nah.
Do you tan easily? I avoid the sun entirely. I don't like tanning. I'm embarrassed about my excess hair. I'm so fair I tend to burn, or not really my thing. Where's my answer for yes? I'm Filipino. I can go outside for an hour and tan. I mean, like, I don't like tanning, but I don't think I have such excess hair that it embarrasses me. I guess I'll just say it's not really my thing.
I'm gonna do. I don't like tanning. I'm embarrassed. I'm a hairy guy. I don't, but it's true. I don't like tanning at all. So, what's your fashion sense? Whatever's comfortable. I wear a lot of black. I think I wear dark t-shirts every time we've done this podcast. Classic and timeless, which, as a fashion sense, I like to show as much skin as possible.
So
that's the werewolf answer.
I feel like I wear a lot of black, but I also go for whatever's comfortable.
Yeah.
Which one wins in the end? I think comfortable wins for me over the color.
I chose the same thing. I tend to buy the same, like if I go buy t-shirts, I'll buy like 5 of the same color t-shirt because I'm like, whatever, I don't care. They're all bundled and they feel nice.
Which is a bigger wardrobe problem? Blood stains, grass stains, both, or wear and tear? I guess wear and tear. I wear them and they go bad. I don't get grass or blood stains very often.
And we have the internet. Like, we know how to take them out now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I think it's... I remember reading something about blood. It sounds really bad. But I chose wear and tear. Oh yeah, that's my question. Do you suffer from any of the following conditions? My hair grows so fast. I feel like I have to shave every day. I'm anemic.
Anemic.
Anemic. I get bored easily. Does that count? None of these apply.
None of these apply.
I probably should shave every day, but I choose not to. For anyone that's only listened to us in audio format, I have beard. Yeah, I'll do the shaving one.
What is your body temperature? Normal? I get cold easily, or I get hot easily? I feel like I get cold easily.
I get hot easily. Hey, how would you describe your diet? High mineral content. Raw diet. I'm on a liquid diet. I don't enjoy the aromatics like garlic. I have a normal diet. But isn't everyone, if they never change their diet, isn't that their normal diet?
Technically, yes. Junk food's not an answer, so normal diet.
It is still what you eat.
It's normal for me.
Yes, it is your normal diet. It's high in content. What the heck is a raw diet? Is that like just salads? Is that sushi?
Yeah. So there is a diet. I forget if I don't know if it's called raw necessarily, but there was a diet thing amongst people that had, I don't know if it was vegetarian or vegetarian and vegan. Forget which way it was, but where you weren't supposed to cook any of your vegetables.
Sounds like the paleo diet, where it's like, cavemen used to eat like this, so thus we shall as well.
Well, cavemen, or paleo is different too, though, right? Because it was like...
eat nuts and berries.
Yeah, nuts and berries.
I'm going to choose normal diet then. Also thinking about it, like, just to shout out a friend of the channel a little bit, Me and Kathy would be the safest in a vampire attack with the amount of garlic we use in our dishes.
Always more garlic.
Yes.
Are you more of an indoors or outdoors person? I tend to stay indoors during the day. I love being in nature, love the fresh night air, or don't have a preference. See, like, you could be both of the first answers, which I think is me. During the day, I'm inside. But I do, like, as a kid, my favorite thing was to go out in summer nights to catch fireflies.
Yes.
Also, campfires are nice.
Well, wouldn't that be you don't have a preference?
But I
'Cause
like
they say
both.
night air.
Yeah, I like going outside at night, not during the day. um, you know what? I'll do that one. Well,
Here's the difficult part about this question in today's season. We have COVID. We can't go outside.
you can go outside in nature, as long as
Give-
you're.
Give all the trees COVID. I chose to stay indoors.
I'm gonna do the fresh night air.
I'm gonna laugh if our answers switch. Okay. Do you get along with man's best friend's dogs? I'm a dog person. Could go either way. I prefer flying creatures, like birds.
Can I say I like all animals?
Would that be? I could go either way.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm a dog person.
That makes me sound like I don't like dogs, which is not true. I just like everything equally.
It's not that I don't like dogs. I just hate.
I have to take a survey to see my results.
What?
I can't. All right, I'm just gonna.
Oh wait, I got mine.
All right, I got mine.
You had to take it.
It just asked me how old I was and what gender I was, so I don't know
Oh.
what they plan on using this information for.
I didn't get that. Interesting.
Anyway, so my answer did kind of flip-flop.
Alright.
I'm 40% vampire, 60% werewolf. Therefore, I am a wild werewolf.
I am 25% vampire, 75% werewolf, and I am also a wild werewolf.
So maybe depending on the time of day, I go 60% vampire and sometimes I go 60% werewolf.
oh, this is cool. We can put in how many percentage. What's 100% vampire? You are 100% vampire. You are an ancient vampire.
All right, so that one's ancient. So what if I put 75% newborn?
What if I'm 100%? Wait a second, that doesn't make sense. I put 100% in the werewolf one, and it came up with ancient. Stupid.
I put in 5% vampire, 95% werewolf, and it came out as you are a born werewolf.
Yeah, I just.
What does that mean?
This is a very ugly picture.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very. It doesn't read vampire or vamp. Oh, if you get 50-50, you get
Yeah.
unnatural.
And the picture of the guy's like, "Hey man."
Which one are you? Your test indicates a mix of unnatural traits. You are, however, not human.
Okay. Well, I think we saw all 4 answers. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up the podcast for us this week. Thanks for listening in. Sorry that it is a different day than usual. Life gets in the way sometimes.
Yep. You have to roll a die.
Yes, I rolled it in the beginning of the podcast, and what I rolled was a 6. So essentially that roll for us is determining what our next topic will be that you guys can vote on.
It is Beatles songs.
Yes, so it'll be Beatles songs versus Looney Tunes characters, correct?
Yep. I'll admit, there's one that I really hope wins. So, yeah. We'll be doing that. Trying to think if there's any quick announcements. That will be up. Might just like schedule that tweet to come out tomorrow, so that way people see it. It's kind of late.
That's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that quiz will be up tomorrow, and you guys will have a whole week to answer it.
On twitter.com/pointlessdisco.
Yeah, twitter.com/pointlessdisco. Once again, welcome, UK, Great Britain, England. I forgot which one it was. I'm too lazy to look at the site right now. Welcome, Great Britain, to the Pointless Disco world of nations of who have listened to the podcast. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but yeah, we'll figure that quiz out. Next time we'll be back on our normal Saturday. If not, we'll let you know via streams. I almost said text messages. But
Whoa, we're getting real personal.
I know.
So then that next Saturday that we expect to be live will be September 5th.
Oh yeah, it is really close now. Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's like very interesting. For the other thing I suggested we should probably do, that's like really close.
We can talk about it.
Yeah. Oh well, doesn't matter. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. And by the way, for anyone that is listening about this and would like to be like, man, I wish my friend could listen to this. We're just asking, hey, on the socials, like feel free to, if you could, just shout us out, just add Pointless Disco. We'll give you a like and probably give you like say, hey guy that did that, thanks, and your name will be in the podcast.
Yep. Or as well as that, if you happen to leave reviews or comments for us on your favorite streaming platforms and you send us a screenshot to our Twitter, then we'll also give you a shout out in that way. Because we do ask for reviews so that we can bump up the podcast a little bit, because we have goofy ideas for live versions of this show, but we don't know how or where to check for those reviews.
Yes. If people know how to find them, can you share? We don't know how. But yeah, I feel like we should, it'd be fun to, we can talk about this off the internet, but it's just like set a goal, like if we get 25 reviews, something happens.
Well, now you spoiled it. Now they know the number that you're thinking of.
It doesn't have to be the number. It was just a suggestion. It could be any number. Like we could roll a D100 and that would be the number.
In any case, maybe we'll set a secret goal so that once we hit so many reviews, then we will do something to commemorate that. Maybe even, so many listens. So if you share us with friends, maybe we'll have a special episode for that as well.
Yeah, that's easier to track. But yeah, everyone, thanks for stopping by, saying hi, eating pie, and that's how I normally end my stream, but that is not how we're in the stream. I forgot. Is there anything else we gotta mention?
Not that I'm aware of.
Sounds good. So, thanks everyone, and bye-bye.